The colony on Leora 7 had always been quiet. It was a small outpost, tucked at the edge of human-explored space, far from Earth and far from the bustling colonies that orbited larger, safer planets. The rocky surface of the planet was harsh, with jagged mountains that cut into the horizon and violent storms that swept across the plains without warning. But humans had made a home here. They were stubborn like that, adaptable, resourceful, and willing to endure hardship where others would flee. Inside the main settlement, the air was tense. Alarms had been sounding for hours, flashing red in the dim light of the habitat domes. The colonists were panicked. Machines had started failing, automated defense drones had gone silent, and an eerie signal from an unknown source pulsed through the colony's sensors. Commander Elena Vargas stared at the monitor, her fingers drumming nervously on the console. She had spent years training for situations like this, but nothing could prepare her for the sheer terror of seeing an enemy that seemed to appear out of nowhere. "They're on the surface," said Lieutenant Harrow, his voice low and steady. "I've scanned the area. They're moving fast, whatever they are. They're not human." Elena didn't need confirmation. She could see the tiny blips on the sensor grid, moving in a strange, unnatural pattern. They were attacking systematically, focusing on power hubs first, then communication towers. It was a strategy. They weren't just raiders, they were precise, efficient, and ruthless. "Send a distress signal," Elena ordered. Her voice was firm, leaving no room for doubt. "To anyone. To Earth. To anyone who can help us. Send it now." The colony's communications officer, a young woman named Kara, nodded and began transmitting the distress message into the void. "Signal is weak. The storms are disrupting transmission," she said, her voice tight with fear. "But it's going out." Elena took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. She knew it could take weeks for help to arrive, if help ever arrived. The galaxy was vast, and Leora 7 was far from any human fleet. Their only hope lay in chance, that someone or something would answer the call. Outside, the attackers moved like shadows. They were tall and angular, with limbs that bent in ways no human limb could. Their armor shimmered in the fading light of Leora 7's twin suns, reflecting flashes of the colony's failing lights. Each step they took was precise, deliberate, as if they were studying the humans before striking. Elena's stomach knotted. She had faced danger before, had led squads in harsh situations, but this was different. These weren't soldiers of any known species. They didn't speak, they didn't hesitate, and they didn't pause. They destroyed. "Commander," Kara said suddenly, her voice tight with urgency. "They're at the outer perimeter. Shields are down to 30%. Elena clenched her fists. She had anticipated attacks, but she hadn't expected them to breach the perimeter so quickly. "All personnel, brace for impact. Activate all internal defense protocols. Lock down secondary domes. Evacuate civilians to shelters immediately." The colonists moved with a mix of fear and determination. Children clung to parents, elders shuffled toward safe zones, and engineers ran through corridors repairing what little systems remained functional. Despite the chaos, Elena noticed something remarkable. Humans were not panicking completely. Even in terror, they were acting, thinking, surviving. And then, as the alien raiders advanced, sensors suddenly picked up a new signal. A ship, massive and unlike anything humans had ever seen, appearing on the edge of the atmosphere. Its silhouette was jagged and imposing, and the moment it entered the system, the raiders paused. "Commander," Lieutenant Harrow said, eyes wide. We have company. Sensors indicate unknown origin. But it's huge. And it's fast." Elena's heart pounded. She didn't know whether to feel hope or fear. The ship was clearly dangerous, its design unlike any human or known alien technology. Its surface was dark, angular, and covered in strange energy patterns that flickered like lightning beneath a stormy sky. "What do they want?" Elena whispered to herself. The answer came instantly. The massive ship opened fire. Not at the colony, but at the raiders. The first blasts hit the alien attackers with pinpoint accuracy. They didn't just destroy, they disintegrated. Entire squads vanished in an instant, leaving behind only smoke and scorched earth. The raiders screamed, a sound that made the colonists flinch and fled wherever they could. Their advance stopped completely, Kara gasped. They just wiped them out. All of them. In minutes, Elena couldn't believe her eyes. She had trained with the best, faced the worst, but this was beyond comprehension. Whatever had answered their call was not just strong, it was terrifying. It was a force the galaxy had whispered about in myths and rumors, a species that no one dared challenge, whose name alone could stop fleets from attacking. But now that species was here. The ship descended toward the colony, but not aggressively. It hovered above the main dome, its presence overwhelming. The ground shook beneath the colonists' feet and a low hum filled the air. It was almost as if the ship was alive, studying, observing. Elena took a step forward, trying to project calm she didn't feel. "Open a channel," she ordered. "Let's communicate. Identify yourself." There was a pause, a long, tense silence before the alien voice came through. It was not in words humans knew, but in tones and vibrations that somehow could be understood. The ship's AI had translated it. "You called," the voice said, deep and resonant. "And we came." Elena's mouth went dry. What are you?" A pause, then a simple reply. "We are Kael'thar. We observe, we judge, we act." "You are interesting." The colonists exchanged nervous glances. They had heard the legends of the Kael'thar. Whole star systems had been said to vanish at their hand. Entire fleets had been destroyed, and yet, here they were, responding to a human distress signal. "Interesting," Elena repeated, trying to hide her fear. "What does that mean?" The Kael'thar did not answer immediately. Instead, their presence shifted subtly. The hum of the ship intensified, and sensors detected energy pulses across its surface. Shields, weapons, systems that humans could barely comprehend. Then, almost casually, the Kael'thar spoke again. "Your species fights differently. You adapt. You endure. You survive. That is rare. That is worthy of attention." Elena swallowed hard. She knew they were being studied, evaluated. But somehow there was respect in the alien voice. Respect and curiosity. "Commander Vargas," Lieutenant Harrow said quietly, I think we're alive because they chose to save us." Elena nodded slowly, still staring at the massive ship. She felt a strange mix of relief and unease. Relief that the raiders were gone, that her colony would survive. Unease because she now understood the galaxy was far bigger, far more dangerous, and far more unpredictable than she had ever imagined. "Humans," the Kael'thar said finally. "You called for help." We answered. "But know this, help comes with a price. You have caught our attention. Do not disappoint us." The hum of the ship shifted again, and with a flash of light the Kael'thar vanished from orbit, leaving the colonists staring at the sky in stunned silence. The raiders were gone. The immediate danger had ended, but a new reality had begun. Humanity had drawn the gaze of a species more dangerous than anything they had ever faced. Elena looked around at her people, fearful, shaken, yet alive. She took a deep breath. "We survived," she said. Her voice carried over the intercom to every dome. "But this is only the beginning. We have been noticed. And the galaxy? The galaxy is watching us now." Outside, the storm clouds of Leora 7 swirled as if in agreement. The winds howled, carrying the distant echoes of something ancient and powerful. Somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the Kael'thar had observed humanity, and for the first time humans had a choice. To remain small and unnoticed, or to rise, to survive, and to face whatever challenges the galaxy would throw at them next. For the colonists of Leora 7, one thing was certain. Help had come. And it was more terrifying and more magnificent than they could have ever imagined. The morning after the Kael'thar saved the colony, the survivors of Leora 7 still trembled in disbelief. The alien ship had vanished as mysteriously as it had appeared, leaving scorched ground, destroyed raiders, and a colony that barely dared to breathe. The humans worked silently, repairing damaged systems and counting their dead. Every face carried the same thought. What had just happened? Commander Elena Vargas walked among the colonists, offering reassurances she barely felt herself. "We survived," she repeated again and again. "That is what matters. That is what counts." Yet she could not shake the feeling that survival came with a shadow. Somewhere in the galaxy, the Kael'thar had seen them. They had observed the humans, and now they knew of their existence, and whatever came next she realized would not be ordinary. Then the warning arrived. The colony sensors picked up movement in orbit. Fast, precise, and unmistakably alien. Not the raiders this time. Something larger. Something deliberate. Lieutenant Harrow's voice cracked through the comms. "Commander, readings show a Kael'thar vessel approaching. Massive. More massive than anything we have ever seen. Shields are fully operational. Energy readings off the charts. They're descending to the planet. Helena felt a chill. Prepare to receive visitors, she said softly. And make sure our defenses are ready just in case. Within minutes, the ship appeared above the colony, casting a massive shadow across the domes. Its surface pulsed with energy patterns almost like the veins of a living creature. The Kelthar had arrived not to fight but to study, and as the humans watched, a beam of light descended from the ship, creating a landing zone in the central plaza of the colony. Aboard the ship, the Kelthar moved with terrifying precision. They were tall, angular beings with limbs that bent in ways humans could barely comprehend. Their armor shimmered like liquid metal, absorbing light and reflecting power. Their eyes, if they could be called eyes, glowed with an intelligence that seemed both cold and endless. But when they moved toward the humans, there was no aggression. Only study, only observation. Commander Elena led a small team to meet them. Lieutenant Harrow, Communications Officer Kara, and 2 engineers followed, their nerves taut. They approached the beam of light, their feet trembling, their eyes wide with awe. The Kelthar spoke, not in words, but in a vibration that resonated in the chest and bones. The colony's AI translated it, but the tone, the power behind it was unmistakable. You survived, the Kelthar said. Your species adapts. You endure. You fight and you learn. That is uncommon. Elena swallowed hard. Why are you helping us? She asked. Why did you destroy the raiders? The Kelthar tilted their head. We did not destroy them for you. We destroyed them because we are Kelthar. We do not ignore threats, but your species, it has caught our attention. You are interesting, worth studying. The word sent a shiver down Elena's spine. Interesting, worth studying. Not allies, not friends, but not enemies either. They were something else entirely, a force beyond human comprehension, watching, judging, deciding. Kara stepped forward, voice shaking. If you're studying us, what does that mean? Are we in danger? The Kelthar's response was simple. You have survived this day. Survival is rare. Continue, and perhaps you may learn more. Fail, and you will not be remembered. With that, the Kelthar extended an invitation. Humans were to be brought aboard their ship, not as prisoners, but as observers, participants, and learners. It was a choice. Stay on Leora 7 in safety, or step into the unknown aboard a vessel built by the most dangerous species in existence. Elena glanced at her team. Lieutenant Harrow nodded. Kara swallowed, and the engineers looked between each other with uncertainty. We go, Elena said finally. If we are to survive in this galaxy, we must understand what we face, and this is the only chance we have. The Kelthar accepted their decision with what could only be described as approval. The humans were lifted into the ship by beams of energy that carried them smoothly, effortlessly. The colony disappeared beneath them as they ascended into the massive vessel. Inside, the ship was beyond comprehension. The corridors were vast, metallic, and alive with energy. Lights pulsed along the walls in patterns that seemed to react to thought, not touch. Panels floated in midair, displaying streams of data the humans could not understand. And yet there was order. Cold, precise, perfect order. One of the engineers, Thomas, whispered, It's like... The ship is alive, Harrow nodded. It's not like anything humans have ever built. Nothing. The Kelthar moved beside them, observing every expression, every movement. You are capable, they said. But your capabilities are primitive. You rely on instinct. You adapt slowly. This will be interesting to see if you can learn. For hours, the humans were shown the ship's systems. Weapons far beyond human imagination. Shields that could bend space itself. Sensors that could read minute fluctuations across planets and stars. And yet the Kelthar were not arrogant. They allowed humans to explore, to touch, even to question. It was here that humans demonstrated what made them remarkable. While the Kelthar relied on brute power, humans relied on ingenuity. When a system malfunctioned, the humans improvised solutions. When a lock would not open, they found a way around it. When a machine threatened to shut down, they repaired it using knowledge and creativity that astonished their alien hosts. The Kelthar observed silently, but the subtle glow of their energy patterns indicated something new. Recognition. Respect. At one point, the ship's AI warned of a small incoming fleet. Raiders regrouping, planning another attack on the colony below. The Kael'thar paused, then turned to Elena. Do you wish to see them destroyed? Elena hesitated. Yes, she said finally. Destroy them. Protect my people. The Kael'thar unleashed their power with terrifying precision. The incoming raiders were obliterated before they reached the planet. Ships disintegrated mid-flight, crews vaporized instantly, and energy waves cleared debris with surgical accuracy. Elena watched, horrified and awed. This was not just power. It was absolute control. When the last raider vanished, the Kael'thar turned to the humans. You see, they said, we do not fight for the weak nor the powerless. But we do fight for interesting species. Elena's mind raced. Interesting, worth studying. Surviving this encounter had changed everything. Humans were no longer just a small colony at the edge of space. They were a species that had drawn the attention of a predator capable of destroying entire civilizations. And yet, somehow they had impressed it. For the first time, Elena felt a glimmer of pride. Humans were fragile, yes, but they were clever, adaptable, and courageous. They had survived when odds were impossible. They had been noticed, and the galaxy would never see them the same way again. The Kael'thar finally spoke one last time before releasing the humans back to Leora 7. You have survived this trial. Remember it. You are observed, and perhaps one day, you will be more than you are now. The humans were returned to their colony, landing safely in the central plaza. The domes were still scarred, the ground still smoking, but life remained. The survivors looked around at one another, understanding that something profound had happened. They had seen the impossible and they had endured. Kara broke the silence. They saved us, she whispered. The most dangerous species in existence. They saved us. Elena nodded slowly. Yes, and we have much to learn. If we are to survive in this galaxy, we must understand what it means to be noticed. As the sun of Leora 7 rose over the jagged mountains casting long shadows across the colony, Elena realized that humanity's place in the galaxy had changed forever. The Kael'thar had arrived, they had acted, and they had left a message that humans could not ignore. Survival was no longer just about strength. It was about intelligence, courage, and the ability to adapt. The Kael'thar ship loomed over the colony like a dark star, immense and alien. Inside it was a world of light energy and impossible geometry. Humans who had stepped aboard felt as though the universe itself had shifted. Corridors bent in ways that made their stomachs twist. Floors appeared to float. Walls shimmered with streams of data, and the air itself seemed alive with power. Commander Elena Vargas led her small team deeper into the vessel. Lieutenant Harrow and Kara followed closely, while Thomas and Lena, the engineers, marveled at every panel, every device. They had survived the raid and had seen the Kael'thar annihilate their enemies. Now they were here to understand them, to learn, and perhaps to survive another day. The Kael'thar did not speak as humans did. Their communication was a resonance, a vibration that carried through the bones. It was translated instantly by the ship's AI, yet the humans could feel something beyond words. Authority, intelligence, and expectation. You are alive, the Kael'thar said, and yet fragile. You must learn quickly. Adaptation is key. Elena swallowed hard. We want to learn, she said. Her voice was steady, though her heart pounded. Tell us what we need to know. The Kael'thar tilted their head, an expression humans interpreted as curiosity. You survive by instinct. That is insufficient. To thrive, you must think beyond instinct. Strategy, planning, precision. That is what the galaxy demands of you. The humans were led into a vast chamber, walls lined with floating holograms that displayed star systems, fleets, and energy patterns. The Kael'thar called it a tactical nexus. It was here that they revealed the scale of their power. Entire fleets could be tracked, analyzed, and neutralized with precision. They showed simulations where a single Kael'thar ship could obliterate dozens of enemy vessels in minutes. Elena's eyes widened. You could destroy entire systems, she said quietly. The Kael'thar's resonance hummed through the chamber. We do not destroy without purpose, but we recognize potential in others. You are interesting. You have survived in spite of weakness. That is remarkable. The humans were given a task, a small simulation of a crisis scenario. A fleet of enemy ships threatened a minor colony on the edge of Kael'thar-controlled space. The humans had to devise a plan to defend the colony using only limited information and resources, without Kelthar interference. Thomas looked at the holograms, nervous. We don't have weapons, we don't have fleets. How are we supposed to do this? Elena smiled faintly. We'll use what we have, intelligence, ingenuity, adaptability. That is what humans are good at. They studied the simulation carefully. Enemy ships approached in patterns that seemed predictable yet were deceptive. The humans noticed weak points in their formations, blind spots in patrol routes, and flaws in the enemy's energy distribution. By combining observation with quick calculations, they devised a strategy. Lure the enemy into a narrow corridor of space, then use limited energy pulses from planetary defenses to disable their ships one by one. The Kelthar watched silently. As the simulation played out, it became clear the humans had succeeded. Not by brute force, not by superior technology, but by thinking differently, creatively, unpredictably, and boldly. You learn quickly, the Kelthar said. That is uncommon. Your species possesses a quality that many stronger species lack. Ingenuity. Elena felt a surge of pride. Humans were small, fragile, and seemingly weak. Yet in this simulation, they had outsmarted forces that dwarfed them in every way. She realized that this was what made humans dangerous, not strength but the mind. For hours, the Kelthar subjected the humans to more tests, simulations of raids, resource crises, and fleet strategies. Each time, the humans adapted, solved problems creatively, and surprised their observers. The Kelthar, who had destroyed entire civilizations without hesitation, now recognized humans as more than prey. They were students, yes, but with potential that demanded attention. Then came the first real challenge. The ship's AI detected a small fleet of pirates, remnants of the raiders moving toward a human supply outpost on a nearby planet. This was not a simulation. This was real. The Kelthar turned to Elena. You have learned enough to attempt this task. Failure will be observed. You will survive, but outcomes may vary. Elena nodded, her mind racing. She had to protect human lives, yes. But now she had a chance to prove something else. That humans could not only survive, they could plan, adapt, and overcome. She coordinated with Kara and Lieutenant Harrow to gather intelligence from sensors. They mapped the pirates' trajectory, identified weak points in their formations, and improvised a plan. Using Kelthar-provided cloaking and energy pulses, they created diversions, traps, and escape routes. Every step relied on observation, deduction, and adaptability. As the humans executed the plan, the Kelthar observed, silent but attentive. The humans moved with focus and precision, anticipating enemy maneuvers, exploiting flaws, and improvising when unexpected obstacles arose. Within hours, the pirate fleet was neutralized. Not annihilated, just disabled and captured, leaving the crews alive but powerless. The Kelthar resonance hummed, a sound that humans interpreted as approval. You have succeeded. Again, by thinking differently. This is remarkable. Elena exhaled, relief washing over her. We didn't just survive, she said quietly. We made it work. The Kelthar nodded almost imperceptibly. You are unusual. Fragile yet resilient. Weak yet clever. That is rare. We will watch you further. Over the following days, the humans continued to train, observe, and learn. They explored the ship, touched alien technology, and even contributed to minor decisions in simulations and defensive strategies. They discovered that the Kelthar valued unpredictability, humans' ability to respond in ways that no algorithm could anticipate. Harrow, who had been skeptical at first, turned to Elena one day. They could destroy us in an instant, he said. Every one of us, and yet they let us learn. They trust us to think. Why? Elena pondered. Because they see something in us. Something dangerous in its own way. Not in strength, not in weapons, but in our minds. In the way we survive, adapt, and refuse to give up. Kara smiled faintly. So we're the interesting ones? Elena nodded. Yes, and if we survive this, if we continue to learn, the galaxy may realize that humans are not as weak as they think. The Kelthar did not make friends easily. They did not offer protection lightly. But in observing humans, they had found something unexpected. Potential. And for the humans, the lesson was clear. In a galaxy filled with power beyond comprehension, intelligence, creativity, and courage could make a difference. One evening, Elena stood in the observation deck staring at the distant stars. The colony below glowed faintly, tiny and fragile, yet alive. The humans aboard the Kyle-Thar ship were safe for now. They had survived, learned, and impressed a species that could destroy entire worlds with a thought. And yet the weight of the galaxy pressed on her mind. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. "We've been noticed. We've been observed, and now we must prepare for what comes next." The Kyle-Thar watched silently, their energy patterns pulsing faintly in response. They had found a species that could surprise them, challenge them, not with raw power, but with ingenuity, resilience, and unpredictability. They had found humans. The humans returned to Leora 7 with a newfound sense of purpose. The colony was still recovering from the raiders' attack, but the shadow of the Kyle-Thar loomed larger than any enemy. The survivors had seen what the most dangerous species in the galaxy could do, and they had lived. More than that, they had learned. They had adapted. Commander Elena Vargas stood on the observation platform, gazing at the stars. The Kyle-Thar ship was still in orbit, massive and silent, a reminder that humanity was being watched. Her team, Lieutenant Harrow, Kara, Thomas, and Lena, stood beside her, each lost in thought. "We survived," Harrow said quietly, "but I don't think the galaxy will let us stay unnoticed for long." Elena nodded. "No, they won't, not after what happened. We've been seen. The Kyle-Thar saved us, yes, but they also made it clear that our existence now matters in ways we can't ignore." The truth was even starker. Across the galaxy, sensors and communications networks were buzzing with news. Word had reached the Galactic Council. Humans had called for help, and the Kyle-Thar had responded. Entire fleets and political leaders were watching, and not all of them were pleased. The Council had always considered humans a minor species. Small, fragile, inexperienced, easy to dismiss. But now humans had not only survived, they had attracted the attention of the galaxy's most feared predators. Within council chambers, a heated debate raged. "We cannot allow humans to rise," one delegate said. "They are unpredictable. The Kyle-Thar's interference proves that they are dangerous." Another replied, "Dangerous? They are insignificant. The Kyle-Thar acted, yes, but humans are still weak. They have no fleets, no power, no experience. We will manage them. Do you not see?" A third delegate snapped. "They are already being observed by forces we cannot control. And what happens when humans learn to think like the Kyle-Thar? When they apply ingenuity to strategy, this species could change the balance of power in the galaxy." Meanwhile, back on Leora 7, humans were not idle. They had learned from the Kyle-Thar, but there was still much to understand. Engineers repaired damaged systems. Strategists studied incoming data from the edge of human-controlled space. And Elena prepared her people for the reality they now faced: survival in a galaxy where every species had an agenda. One morning, Kara approached Elena with a message. "Commander, our sensors picked up a fleet near the Paralon sector. It's large, and it's moving toward human colonies." Elena's brow furrowed.
"Hostile?"
"Unknown," Kara said. "But given recent events, I doubt it's friendly." Harrow added, "It's not just one fleet. There are signals of multiple fleets converging. Whoever they are, they're organized and deliberate." Elena's mind raced. Humans were outmatched, but not powerless. They had survived before. They had learned from the Kyle-Thar. And they had ingenuity, something the Council and other species often underestimated. She called a meeting with her team. "We can't face this head-on, not yet, but we can use what we've learned. We can anticipate, adapt, and strike where they least expect us. Humans are small, yes, but small is not weak when you know how to survive." The next few days were tense. Colonists and soldiers worked together, setting up defenses, studying enemy movements, and improvising strategies. Every sensor ping was analyzed. Every ship movement was predicted. The humans were small in number, but their minds moved faster than any algorithm. Then the first strike came. Scouts from the converging fleets approached Leora 7, attempting to gauge defenses. But the humans had anticipated this. Using improvised cloaking, energy pulses, and strategic decoys, they intercepted the scouts, capturing their ships intact. The Kyle-Thar watched silently from orbit, their energy patterns glowing faintly. Humans had applied what they had learned in practice, not just simulations. They had survived an attack that would have destroyed an unprepared species. Word spread quickly. Across the galaxy, other species began to whisper. Humans were no longer just minor players. They were unpredictable. And unpredictability, the Kael'thar had shown, could be far more dangerous than brute force. In the council chambers, fear grew. "They have no fleets," one delegate cried. "They are weak. They are clever," another shouted. "They have survived impossible odds, and now they learn faster than we can predict." Some factions even debated preemptive strikes, hoping to eliminate humans before they became a true threat. But every proposal was met with caution because of the Kael'thar. The very species that could wipe out civilizations without hesitation had shown interest in humanity. No one dared act too aggressively. Back on Leora 7, Elena prepared her team for the next phase. "We've proven we can survive," she said. "But survival is not enough. We need to show that humans are capable of more. That we can think, adapt, and outmaneuver anyone who underestimates us." The humans launched a series of operations against the converging fleets. They used strategies learned from the Kael'thar, combined with human creativity. Small strike teams sabotaged enemy supply lines. Decoy ships lured patrols into traps. Communication channels were hacked to spread misinformation. Every move relied on intelligence, improvisation, and courage. The results stunned their enemies. Fleets that had expected easy victories found themselves outmaneuvered, confused, and demoralized. Human colonies that had seemed like weak outposts now acted with precision, coordination, and boldness. Even the Kael'thar noted the changes. Their energy patterns pulsed with faint approval. Humans were learning faster than expected. They were beginning to think strategically, creatively, and boldly. Then came the message from the Galactic Council. An ultimatum. Surrender humanity. Submit to oversight. Cease all independent operations or face annihilation. Elena read the message aloud to her team. "They think they can intimidate us. That fear will control us." She paused, eyes blazing. "They are wrong. Humans do not bow. Humans adapt. Humans survive. And humans will fight when cornered." The team nodded, determination shining in their faces. "We've survived impossible odds before," Harrow said. "We'll survive this too." "Yes," Elena agreed. "And we will show the galaxy that humans are not weak. That they are clever, resourceful, and dangerous in ways no one expected." Preparations began immediately. Colonists trained alongside soldiers. Defense systems were upgraded with whatever technology the humans could improvise. Strategies were tested and revised constantly. Every sensor ping, every potential threat was analyzed and countered. When the fleets arrived again, they were met not by panic, but by precision. Humans used clever tactics, traps, and misdirection. Enemy ships were disabled, supply lines cut, and morale shattered. Each victory was small, tactical, but each one proved a point. Humans were not to be underestimated. Across the galaxy, whispers grew louder. The council was divided. Some feared humans. Some wanted to control them. But all realized one truth. Humans were no longer minor players. They had survived impossible odds, learned from the most dangerous species in the galaxy, and were beginning to assert themselves strategically. Elena stood on the observation platform once more, staring at the stars. The Kael'thar ship still hovered silently above Leora 7, a reminder of both power and possibility. "We've been noticed," she said softly. "But we've also learned, and now, we show the galaxy who humans really are." As the twin suns of Leora 7 rose, casting long shadows across the rocky plains, humans prepared for what would come next. They were small, yes, but they were clever, resourceful, and united. And in a galaxy filled with danger, unpredictability could be the greatest weapon of all. Elena clenched her fists, determination burning in her eyes. "We survive. We adapt, we fight, and the galaxy will remember that humans are not weak. We are dangerous, in ways no one can predict." The galaxy had taken notice. From the furthest colonies to the grand halls of the Galactic Council, whispers and murmurs carried a single, undeniable truth. Humans were no longer the species to be ignored. On Leora 7, the colonists worked tirelessly. For months, they had prepared for the inevitable, an attack from one or more of the hostile fleets that had sent the Council's ultimatum. Supplies were stockpiled, energy shields were fortified, and humans trained with relentless determination. Every soldier, engineer, and colonist contributed. Each action was calculated, every move a product of creativity, logic, and the lessons learned from the Kael'thar. Commander Elena Vargas stood on the observation platform, watching the horizon. Twin suns cast long, jagged shadows across the rocky plains. It was quiet. Too quiet. Lieutenant Harrow approached, his face grim. "Commander, the fleet is here. Sensors detect thousands of ships converging on Leora 7. They expect an easy victory." Elena's eyes narrowed. "Then they'll be surprised. Humans do not bow. Humans do not surrender. They fight. And when cornered, they adapt." From orbit, the Kael'thar watched silently. They had trained the humans, observed them, and allowed them to plan. Now it was time to see the results of what they had nurtured. Ingenuity in a species small and seemingly fragile, facing a galaxy that doubted them. The enemy fleet advanced, confident and unyielding. Energy weapons flared, scanning for weak points. Command ships barked orders, expecting humans to falter, to panic, to die. But the humans had learned. Elena coordinated the defense. Using a combination of planetary defenses, improvised decoys, and hidden energy pulses derived from Kael'thar technology, she led the enemy into traps. Ships attempting to flank were caught in energy nets and disabled. Supply lines were cut with precise strikes. Communication channels were hacked, spreading false reports that forced the enemy into confusion. Even as the humans fought, they adapted. When enemy ships changed tactics, human engineers modified systems on the fly. When the attackers tried ambushes, scouts anticipated their moves. Humans were small, yes, but their unpredictability made them deadly. "Commander," Kara shouted from the comm station. "A wing is trying to hit the main dome directly. Shields at 50%. Elena's mind raced. "Divert all energy pulses to dome perimeter. Activate decoy fleet. Focus fire on enemy wing approaching from Sector 3. Harrow, you lead the intercept team." Harrow nodded, his confidence radiating. "Understood." The humans executed the maneuvers flawlessly. The decoy fleet drew the enemy wing into a trap. Energy pulses disabled engines, leaving ships drifting helplessly. Interceptor squads, using tactics developed from Kael'thar simulations, struck with precision. One by one, enemy ships fell, disabled but not destroyed. A message that humans could be lethal without being unnecessarily cruel. From orbit, the Kael'thar observed. Their energy patterns glowed faintly, a sign of approval. Humans were applying what they had learned, combining instinct with intelligence, improvisation with planning. They were effective. Across the battlefield, human ingenuity shone. Engineers created makeshift cloaks that hid strike teams until the last moment. Soldiers coordinated with civilian drones to predict enemy movements. Even the colonists contributed, improvising energy barriers, redirecting power supplies, and maintaining communication lines under fire. The enemy commanders were stunned. "How are they surviving?" one shouted. "How are they countering every move?" "They are humans," another whispered, disbelief in their voice. "We underestimated them. We have made a mistake." Elena's eyes scanned the battlefield, watching the chaos unfold in her favor. "We fight for survival," she said quietly. "But more than that, we fight for respect. Let them learn that humans are not weak." Hours passed. The enemy fleet, once confident, was in disarray. Ships drifted, communications broke down, and morale plummeted. Humans, using intelligence, creativity, and courage, had turned the tide without relying solely on firepower. And then came the final move. Using knowledge gained from the Kael'thar, Elena coordinated a precision strike. Energy pulses designed to disable entire wings of enemy ships without loss of life. The strikes hit simultaneously, leaving the remaining ships drifting, powerless, and in shock. The humans had won, not by brute force, but by thinking differently, by outsmarting a far larger force. Silence fell over the battlefield. The enemy ships remained, but they were broken, helpless, and incapable of continuing the attack. Humans had survived, adapted, and triumphed. From orbit, the Kael'thar ship pulsed with energy. They had observed humans transform under pressure, apply intelligence in ways no other species had, and emerge victorious against impossible odds. "You are remarkable," the Kael'thar resonance echoed. "Not the strongest, not the fastest, but you endure, adapt, and think. That is the essence of survival. That is dangerous." Elena looked up at the Kael'thar ship, her heart pounding. "We have learned from you," she said. "And we have survived. Humanity. Will not be underestimated, the Kael'thar responded almost imperceptibly. We will continue to observe. Perhaps one day you will be more than you are now. The humans returned to their colony, battered but alive. Repairs began immediately, systems were restored, and the survivors took stock of their losses and victories. For the first time, they understood something profound. Humanity was capable of more than survival. They could strategize, innovate, and challenge even the most powerful forces in the galaxy. Across the galaxy, whispers turned to astonishment. Humans had faced overwhelming odds and prevailed. The Council debated new policies, now unsure whether to attempt control or to recognize humans as a species to be respected or feared. Other civilizations watched, wary and intrigued. Humans were no longer minor players. They were a species that could surprise, outthink, and endure in ways no one had predicted. Elena stood on the observation platform gazing at the stars. "We survived because we are human," she said softly. "Not because we are the strongest, not because we have the best weapons, but because we adapt, we endure, we think, and we fight with courage and unity." Harrow approached nodding. "The galaxy will remember this day." "Yes," Elena said, a faint smile on her lips. "And they will remember humans. Not as weak, not as minor players, but as a force to be reckoned with, unpredictable, clever, dangerous." Below, the colony thrived. Children played amidst repaired domes. Engineers tested new inventions. Soldiers trained with renewed purpose. Humans had survived the impossible, and they had learned something vital. Survival was only the beginning. Above them, the Kael'thar watched silently. They had found a species that could challenge expectation, that could think differently, and that could endure against impossible odds. Humans were unpredictable, intelligent, and remarkable. And in that moment, humanity stepped fully into the galaxy's awareness. No longer minor, no longer underestimated, a species capable of survival, ingenuity, and courage. The galaxy had met humans, and the balance of power had shifted forever. Elena raised her gaze to the stars, her heart filled with determination. "We are humans," she said, "and we will not be ignored, not now, not ever." The twin suns of Leora 7 rose high, casting long shadows across the plains. The colony stood intact, alive, and stronger than ever. And somewhere in the infinite darkness of space, the Kael'thar observed, knowing that humanity's story was only beginning, and that the galaxy would never be the same. For the first time, humans felt it, the thrill of survival, the power of ingenuity, and the certainty that they had awakened something in the universe, something that would forever mark them as extraordinary.